Hello. So, welcome back. This is the show where I rank Doctor Who episodes with its future looking a little uncertain. So I'm just getting my tier listings out while it's still culturally relevant to do so. So we've already looked at the RTD1 era, and we've looked at the Matt Smith era. The link should be in the description for those. So now we move on to the Peter Capaldi era. Now, there's no doubt Peter Capaldi had a big task coming in after Matt Smith, because arguably it was under Matt Smith that Doctor Who was at the peak of its popularity. So some would say this was the start of the decline, but I personally say I thought Peter Capaldi was absolutely excellent in the role as the Doctor. Even if the material he was given wasn't always up to par. Now, obviously, since we're doing the Peter Capaldi era, we're also going to be doing a lot of Clara, the divisive Clara Oswald. Now, as I did make clear in my previous stream, I am a bit of a Jenna Coleman simp, so I will not tolerate any Clara bashing, any of that, and this is what happens.
You are authorized to use the mind probe.
What? No, not the mind probe.
Yep. So there's the warning. But no, seriously, if you anything you do have to say, just let me know and I'll look at it. So we'll start with first episode on the Peter Capaldi, Deep Breath, and I thought this was a great episode. It's because I think it does everything it needs to do. You know, it introduces us to the new Doctor, and it tells us instantly he's going to be very different to what we're used to under Matt Smith. He's a lot more erratic. He's more chaotic, and it completely resets the Doctor and Clara's relationship. Clara and 11, they always had a slightly flirtatious relationship, but they make quite clear in this episode that that's not going to be the case between them moving forward. You know, a lot has been said about what is 12 and Clara's relationship, and it's complicated, it's complex. I think that's fair to say. But no, I thought this was a great episode, and I can absolutely defend Clara's attitude in this episode as well. You know, because a lot of people don't like her, but you know, I think all you really need to do is just see it from her point of view and understand it's a lot more complicated than just saying, "Oh, but she knows about regeneration." So this is the last time we see the Paternoster gang. Strax, Vasta, and Jenny. That's a shame because I would have actually liked to have seen Strax and Clara together a bit more. But and we get the return of the Clockwork Robots, and you know, I thought that was an interesting return. I thought that story worked really well. And again, it really also highlighted the differences between 11 and 12, when the Doctor left Clara trapped in the room with the killer robots, something 11 would just never have done because he was always very protective of her. So you know, we know right away this is going to be a very, very different era to what we had been used to before. Also, it's the color tones in this era are very different. I sort of think of this as being Doctor Who's more sort of blue tint era. It's the colours are a lot more drab than they had been in the Matt Smith era. Although there's an episode that coming up that's going to completely destroy that idea. But no, I thought it was a great start. So then we move on to Into the Dalek. Yeah, I think this episode is actually okay. I think why people don't really like it is, the trouble is, it's a story that's already been told before and been told a lot better. I think generally people would think more highly of this episode if Dalek didn't exist. We've already seen the story. Is it possible to have a good Dalek? So I think that's why this episode suffers. But in its own right, it's not too bad. And we get the introduction of Danny Pink in this episode. Again, I don't think Danny Pink is a bad character. I just think he's an underutilized one. I just think throughout the course of the series, I think you should have seen him and Clara together a lot more. But yeah, other than that, yeah, it's okay. Oh, and of course we get the Doctor has realised that this Doctor has a real hatred towards soldiers because he's quite unfair to Zoe Ashton's character in this because she's a soldier, and so that's a trait for him we see more of going forward. Move on to Robot of Sherwood. It's okay. It's not one you're going to go back to, but it's just a sort of filler episode, and it's fun for what it is. It's not offensively bad. It's just okay. And we do get good plot points moving forward when the Doctor is Clara's hero. That's that stuff that all pays off further down the line. We go to Listen. I think this is a good episode. I think there are people who massively overrate it, but I think it's a good episode. It's where we really see the start of Clara and Danny's relationship, and we get Clara's great speech about how fear can bring you home. Those are really great moments. I don't know. Then there's I put in quotes the monster in this episode. Yeah, I mean, is it a monster? Is it just a kid under a bedspread? I don't know, but it's all right. Time Heist, yes to Time Heist. I like this episode. I can't put it in great or fantastic, but it does everything that it sets out to do. It's not a deep story. I mean, I get the bit with the teller at the end. I mean, that is a bit of Stephen Moffat recycling his old ideas from Hyde. But yeah, it's just a fun episode. I like the supporting characters in this, and so yeah, it's a fun episode. You won't, I just don't see how you could be disappointed in it. We get to the caretaker. I'm not sure where to put the caretaker. I mean, I'll put it in. Yeah, I guess put it in poor. There's no doubt that the Blitzer absolutely sucks as an enemy. And it looks awful. Even if this was 1970s Doctor Who, you would have to say that the Blitzer looks terrible. It's got some good character moments in it. When the Doctor realizes that that Danny Pink is the man that Clara has been dating. I think people get confused about this. People think that that the Doctor is jealous about Clara dating, but that's not really true. He knows that Clara's been out dating. He just didn't know who it was, which is a weird oversight from the Doctor. To be fair, you would expect that is something he would know. But yeah, I can't. Yeah, it's got to stay in poor, I'm afraid. Then we get to kill the moon. Yeah, there's no defending this episode, really. The moon is an egg. Admittedly, Clara does have a great bit at the end, and she's absolutely justified to be angry with the Doctor at the end. He was withholding information from her. And he just completely abandoned her on the moon. So yeah, she is completely justified in that. But even so, that little bit isn't enough to make up for the fact that this is just a terrible episode, and we've got to endure Courtney as well. So that's always going to work against it. So yeah, the Doctor's in a bit of a bad patch here, but luckily we have fantastic episodes coming up, and that is the Mummy on the Orient Express. Just a really great classic slice of Doctor Who. The Mummy looks great. I love the gimmick with the countdown, 66 seconds. That works really well. And obviously, it's a very important episode for the Doctor and Clara's relationship, because whereas Clara sort of realizes that being with the Doctor is actually really bad for her, but she can't give it up, and so that's a very important moment in their overall story arc. So, and Frank Skinner is actually really good in this episode as Perkins. So yep, absolutely recommend this episode. And then we go on to Flatline. Another great episode. A bit it's quite an unusual setup. The Doctor is physically trapped inside the TARDIS that's shrinking. So Clara has to act as the Doctor Clara. Again, this is just really setting up stuff that pays off down the line, and we've got the enemy, the boneless. Again, these monsters from a 2D universe trying to break out into the third dimension, and they just work really well. And then, do you know what? If there was any doubts that Peter Capaldi is the Doctor, well, I think they just get completely eliminated by his man who stops the monsters speech at the end. So yeah, this was a really great episode. So are we back to form? No, because now we've got In the Forest of the Night. Yeah, it's just rubbish. Yeah, they're really trying to go for the whole fairy tale aspect, but it just doesn't come off. And you know, I can't really think much to recommend it. It's probably Danny's best episode, because it's one where you see when the doctor, the doctor and Clara relation. Clara is getting increasingly reckless, but in this episode we see that Danny's here and to actually just ground her, because she's getting all swept up in the mystery, but Danny's there to remind her that actually her priority should be the children they're supposed to be looking after, and it actually even earns them the doctor's respect. But other than that, I can't really say much to recommend in the Forest of the Night. Right, next series finale, the highly controversial series finale, the finale that the BBC had to issue an apology for. We're talking Dark Water, Death in Heaven. Yes, the BBC, they got a lot of complaints over this. So assume so that Danny Pink dies, and they go into and the Doctor finds a way into the afterlife through this company W, and it turns out all the dead, they are suffering, and that got the BBC, that got them a ton of complaints. So if we look at the episode itself, Missy's whole plan, her whole plan, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I mean, if you look at her plan as a whole, and by the way, I absolutely love Michelle Gomez as Missy. She's fantastic. I love the whole, the great reveal that Missy is the master. I love that, but it's just her whole plan is ridiculous. It's so ridiculous that I would say giving the Doctor a Cyberman army is actually the most sensible part of it. Because there is just so many steps to it. It needs so many coincidental, Okay, so if we look at our plan. Okay, so Clara was handpicked by Missy for this plan to work. Okay, and so that means Missy would need to have had prior knowledge of basically everything that happens. She would need to have known the whole Impossible Girl arc, that that Clara was going to be this girl who jumped into the Doctor's time stream, and the Doctor was going to develop this obsession with finding her, and then she would need to have known that at some point they were going to get stuck in 1893. There's going to be a rift between them. So luckily she got a job as editor of the Times for one day, so she could place an advert in the paper. And then there's all the stuff with Danny Pink, and there's nothing in the program. I mean, we can assume she was, but nothing in the show itself that confirms that Missy had any involvement in Danny Pink's death, or that she was even responsible for the meeting. And that's so bizarre, because he is actually the linchpin of making a whole plan work. because for her plan to work, it needed someone sufficiently close to Clara to die, and she would have to have known that would have pushed her to uh, uh, get the Doctor to try and take her into the afterlife, which would also have required that the Doctor would have to have believed that was even a thing that was possible. Um, um, so yeah, her plan, it just doesn't make sense. And other than that, it's just not very, very good. So yeah, keep it in. Got to keep this one in poor, I'm afraid. Then we get to the Last Christmas. I think this has been a bit of a sleeper hit, because a lot of people, they weren't big fans of this episode when it first came out, but I think people slowly, they are actually coming to appreciate it a lot more, because it's actually a really good episode. Yeah, I get the point. It's a bit silly. The Doctor hanging out with Santa Claus, and I get that, but it is actually a really good story, uh, and I think it gives Clara and Danny the closure they needed. Obviously, at the time, the story was this was going to be Jenna Coleman's last episodes. Uh, I think in the long term, it could have been. I'm glad it wasn't, because I think it paid off a lot better in the long run. But yeah, I actually think this is a very good Christmas special, and yeah, I think people are appreciating it more and more over time. Then we get to season 9. So we get The Magician's Apprentice, The Witch's Familiar. Where do we go? Yeah, I'm going to put it in poor, I'm afraid. I'd like to rank it higher, but I just don't think I could really justify it. The premise is answering a question from Genesis of the Daleks that really didn't need to be answered. I guess the stuff with Davros, him being a little sneaky, trying to manipulate the Doctor. I guess that stuff kind of worked. I guess then you get the Doctor's refusal to accept that Clara is dead, when at that point he's got no reason to believe that she is anything other than dead. I think that's an interesting story beat that will play on later. And and the scene when he sees Clara inside the Dalek, I admit sometimes I feel like the Doctor should have reacted more strongly to that. Sometimes I think he plays it just right, because that should be a very uncomfortable image for the Doctor to see, because you have to remember the first time he encountered Clara, it was one of her echoes in a Dalek asylum. So I don't know. Sometimes I think he should have played on it more. I'm not sure. Clara and Missy playing a bit of the odd couple. I guess that's quite entertaining. Can I bump it up? No, I think I just got to leave it in here. But now we go to under the lake before the flood, and that goes into great. This is a great story. Uh, it's got a really creepy, spooky atmosphere. I love the ghosts. I even quite like the Fisher King, even if he is, slightly ludicrous. Um, but yeah, my only real major issue with this episode is I think it comes at the wrong place in the season. I think this story should have come before Face the Raven, because I think for the story that they're telling over these seasons, I think this is the episode where Clara's recklessness is becoming more prominent. The way she just wants to rush out into danger, and and the Doctor even gives her a little speech about his duty of care, and she's quite dismissive of it. So that'd be my only real criticism. I think it comes too early in the season. But other than that, I really like this story. Now we go. I'll split these out into two. We'll do the girl who died first, and this is where we first meet Shilda stroke me, uh, played by Maisie Williams, who I've never been a massive fan on. Even in Game of Thrones, the times she was most entertaining was when she was traveling with the Hound, and let's face it, that was mostly because of the Hound. Yeah, this is it's a very bog standard Doctor Who story. Uh, helping the Doctor helps these group of people fighting off an alien invader, and that's okay. The Maya themselves, they're not a particularly interesting villain. There's nothing interesting or unique about them. I guess it does start off the whole hybrid thing, but it's fine. Yeah, it's not an episode I'll be coming back to. But then the next episode is even worse. The Woman Who Lived. Yeah, just don't like it all. I don't think Shield is a particularly great. Well, she's not really a villain. She's more sort of frenemy, I guess. I guess you'd say. And this stupid lion creature. Rufus Hound. He gets the same disc Shielder was given in The Girl Who Died, but it doesn't seem to have made him immortal. So I don't know what's up with that. But no, it's not for me. The Zygon invasion, the Zygon inversion. Yeah, it's good. It's good. I know a lot of people who will push this up into great or fantastic, but that's mainly because of Peter Capaldi's great war speech, and it is a great speech. And I have to admit that does bump it up a little bit. But I'd say overall, the story is good. It's following up on events of this loose pact that's existed since Day of the Doctor between humans and Zygons. It's good. But what's not good is Sleep No More. It's an interesting story. It's trying to catch up on the. It's trying to catch in on the found footage genre But unfortunately, it's like what 5 years after that fad had died out. Uh, so yeah, that doesn't really work, and they probably made it. And they probably made probably one of the most disgusting monsters in Doctor Who history until Space Babies came around. Uh, but no, nothing to really recommend it. Reece Shearsmith's all right, I guess, but not really. Now, now we get into the big stuff. So we start with Face the Raven, and yes, this one is going into great. So this is the culmination of the story they've been telling regarding Clara's character, where after Danny died, she became more reckless. There was nothing grounding her to earth, so she was taking more chances. And this is the episode where it all came back to bite her. So I like the initial setup with the Trap Street, even if the Trap Street does look a bit weird with its Victorianness, and so Clara, she takes this chronolock. She does it for a good reason. You know, because let's be fair, actually, because she doesn't want Riggsy's child to grow up without a father. You know, so she does it for a good reason. But she doesn't know the dangers. That's the trouble. She thinks this is what the Doctor would do, but the Doctor, he always knows beforehand the risks he's taking, and Clara just ran into it blindly because she's not the Doctor, and ultimately she always has this faith that whatever happens, the Doctor will save her, and it didn't happen this time. When and Absolute top credits to Peter Capaldi and Jenna Coleman uh, when they're having their final conversation. Uh, they absolutely knock it out of the park, and then we see Clara's death by a bird, and yes, that's a beautifully done moment as well. And so yes, it's absolutely this is a great episode. And then we go to Heaven Sent, and you know where this is going. No messing around. This is an episode that absolutely deserves all the plaudits that it gets. I say this isn't just like one of the greatest Doctor Who episodes. This is just like one of the great TV episodes. It goes beyond that. It's a story. This is about it's about overcoming your grief and carrying on, and it's just beautifully done. The director Rachel Talalay, she does an excellent job with the castle and this setting, the way the story is slowly revealed, right up until you reach the what's it called, Abysmantium Wall, and we get that absolutely epic, the epic uh, Diamond Mountain bird speech, and I think this is also Murray Gold. I think this is also his finest moment uh, with uh, with the Shepherd's Boy track. Yeah, this episode it's just perfection. And then we get to Hellbent, and I'm going to put this in good. Now, let me explain, because I know most people would put this right in bottom tier, but let me explain. Most of the criticism that this episode gets, it comes from people who say that it undoes everything that happened in Face the Raven and Heaven Sent, and actually, to a degree, I agree with that. I think it does undo a lot of it, but if you look at this episode on its own terms, you'll see there is actually a lot to recommend Hellbent. I mean, yes, there's still a lot of bollocks with Gallifrey and the hybrid, but that's all just background. Because this episode, it's really about the Doctor and Clara and their relationship, and the Doctor realizing it just can't go on, because the Doctor and Clara have probably one of the most interesting relationships out of all the Doctor companions in all of Who history, because it's a relationship where they bring out the best and the worst in each other, and again, Peter Capaldi and Jenna Coleman, they're both absolutely brilliant in with their parts in this episode. Although that's a bit like saying grass is green. But like I say, almost forget about Heaven Sent and Hellbent when you watch this episode. Sorry, forget about Face the Raven and Heaven Sent. Yeah, if you just sort of forget about those and just watch this episode on its own terms, and you'll see there's actually a lot to recommend it. We go to Husbands of River Song. Now, I put this in good. As I said before, I'm not the biggest fan of River Song. I have a lot of issues with their relationship, but somehow this one, this one just seemed to work. It felt like this was the first time I genuinely bought they were aligned with each other. Which is an irony. I would say the best River Song episodes are her first and her last. I mean, admittedly, River does look a little dim in this episode. The way she doesn't cotton on that she's speaking to the Doctor, and the episode itself even makes a joke about that. But otherwise, yeah, this was easily River's best. River's best since Silence in the Library, and it was a good way to end it for her. So yeah, like I say, even though I'm not a big fan of River Song, I would recommend this episode. Can't put it any higher because Hydroflex sucks. And I'm a fan of Greg Davis, but yeah, he just sucks as a villain. Then we get to Return of Dr. Mysterio, and I just don't know how I'm to rank this. So it's like the Doctor Who meets Superman. I don't know. Am I supposed to rank this as a superhero movie or as a Doctor Who episode? It's a weird genre smash, but yeah, and I don't like that he's actually The ghost still has his powers at the end of this episode. That's something that bothers me going forward. But I mean, I guess for the story it's telling, it's all right. But yeah, it's strange. Do you know, I'll put it in. I'll put the Return of Doctor Mysterio in okay, just purely because I don't really know what to make of it. Then we go to season 10. A lot of people really love season 10. A lot of people tell you this is a really great season. I honestly don't understand those people, but we'll get more into that later. So the pilot, um, it's okay. That's all I can really say about it. We get introduced to Bill Potts. Bill, she's good. I like her. I guess this episode does contain one of my favorite funny moments in Doctor Who, just because it's so bizarre. It's a scene where Bill and the Doctor they're in his office talking, and then suddenly the Doctor's up. A good man is kicking in on the soundtrack, and he is off running like a penguin with his ass on fire. And it's getting really dramatic, really dramatic here. He's running to look at a puddle. Oh, I just can't help but laugh at that. Other than that, I just say it's an okay episode. I don't think there's anything special about it. Smile. Do you know what Smile is? Smile is we've got the girl who waited at home. That's what this episode is. It just feels so much like the Matt Smith's episode, The Girl Who Waited, but it's just not as good. Stupid little emoji robots. It's just basically the same plot, really. Yeah, no, not for me. I guess if that episode didn't exist, I'd think more fondly of it. So I'll be fair. I'll give it an okay rating. I get Thin Ice. Thin Ice. It's not great. I mean, the Doctor does punch a racist, so that definitely gets it brownie points. So that'll keep it out of poor. But what's definitely going into poor is Knock Knock. No, not for me. I know this episode has its defenders, and that's fine. But yeah, I don't like it. Don't really care for Bill's housemates who we never see again. I guess the caretaker. Yeah, I'm sure he's creepy, but I think the story is still a bit stupid. But no, it's not for me. Right, and then we get to Oxygen, and yes, I say this is definitely one of the highlights of season 10. This is a story about capitalism in its most extreme form, where people have to pay for the units of air that they breathe. And remember, Doctor Who was never political until Chris Chibnall's era. And it's the episode where the Doctor goes blind. Oh, I forgot to mention earlier because I should have brought this up on Magician's Apprentice, The Witch is Familiar. The Doctor and his sonic sunglasses. I have to say, I can't hate those. I just can't, because once I found out that they were Peter Capaldi's idea, so that children with not much money could still play as pretending to be the Doctor. How can I hate that? But that was just something I meant to bring up earlier. I've just suddenly remembered. But back to Oxygen. Yes, really great episode. I mean, it looks like your standard Doctor Who fare. Just him trapped on a spaceship, on a spaceship with this crew of people. But because of all those other little elements to it, it just rises above that, and that's what gets it into great. Right, and next we're moving into the Monk trilogy. I've separated all into 3 parts, and I'm gonna put these all on together just so I can demonstrate something about this. So Extremis, that goes into great. Pyramid at the End of the World is okay. Lie of the Land, poor. And really, that's just a sort of summary of the Moffat era. Because in Extremis, we got this really great setup. That's the Doctor's Matrix episode. It's really setting up these monks. They're going to these really great, powerful villains. And again, we get to Pyramid at the End of the World. Again, this is just set up for the finale. It's nothing spectacular, but it does its job. But then you get to Lie of the Land, and that is just not very good at all. Do you know the monks don't have any lines at all in Lie of the Land? It's a really disappointing conclusion, and that was a thing. That was a common theme throughout. Well, not even just Moffat's Doctor Who era. It was the same on Sherlock as well, where there'd be all these great ideas, but the payoff would always be disappointing. So, in many ways, the Monk trilogy, it sort of encapsulates Stephen Moffat. Great ideas to start for a story, very disappointing payoff. Right, Empress of Mars. Yeah, no. It's very weird that after the Monk trilogy, this season essentially has just 2 filler episodes. And starting with Empress of Mars. All right, British Empire on the Moon. That's quite a novel setup, I guess. But no, it's not. It's not very good. Eaters of Light. Yeah, that can just go straight in the bin. Just a really bad episode. Yeah, it makes the Romans look dull. It shouldn't be possible. But then it's fine after these. I mean, Doctor Who was on a really bad run here. Lie of the Land, Empress of Mars, Eaters of Light. it needed a win. So luckily we get World Enough in Time and the Doctor falls. Yes. Yes, for once this was absolutely brilliant. Excuse me. There was no great long season arc leading into this. It's really just this one-off story. I mean, okay, you might argue, because I haven't really talked about Missy being in this season, but you might argue that yes, there was a great. This was part of her great character arc throughout. Um, but really, this was really just a one-off story, and it actually worked out really well. It's sort of like a genesis of the Cybermen story. Uh, you know, it all starts when Bill gets a big blast of hole in the chest, and she has to go off and heal from that somehow. Uh, and we get this great reveal that Bill has been turned into a Cyberman, and that's a really exciting moment. But obviously the really big thing is the return of John Sim as the Master. So we get our first on TV, at least, our first multi-master story, as we have John Sim's Master and Missy playing a villainous duo. And but you can sort of learn throughout it that see, John Sim, his Master, he's almost becomes a bit of a caricature, it has to be said. But the most interesting development is with Missy. After the Doctor gives his Doctor Falls speech, and I think the greatest tragedy of this episode for the Doctor is he never knows. He never learns that Missy didn't betray him. He thinks that Missy just went off, escaped with the Master. He doesn't know that actually she did fight for him in the end, and I think that's probably the saddest part of this story. Bill, she gets rescued at the end out of nowhere by the Puddle Girl, who we haven't seen since episode 1, because characters can't die under in the Stephen Moffat era. And oh no, I just remember Nardole. Haven't really talked about him. After Husbands of River Song, Matt Lucas's character Nardole, he became a regular character in the series. I don't have particularly strong feelings about Nardole. He's okay, but I say this is actually his strongest story. When he leads the villagers off to try and escape the Cybermen. So yeah, I say this is his strongest appearance in this. But yeah, like I say, characters don't really die. We do get the cliffhanger ending. It wasn't originally intended to be. This is when we were supposed to get the regeneration into Jodie Whittaker, but Chris Chibnall didn't want to do a Christmas episode, so we got a little delay on that, and that leads us into Twice Upon a Time. Now, I'm putting this in okay. I really want to rank this higher, though. I really do, but I just can't. Because there are other things I like in this episode. I like when the Doctor, when he gets to give his sort of goodbyes to Clara and Bill and Nardole, and and he gives it his regeneration speech, which I think is possibly even better than Matt Smith's. But I just can't, because there's not much to the story. Even even the Doctor acknowledges as about this. What's the name called? So, yeah, that there's no great evil plan here. There's nothing he can do with it. And yeah, that so that does drag it down. I can't, and David Bradley. Yeah, there's a bit of a character assassination on William Hartnell's first Doctor. It feels like this is just someone who's only watched the first few stories of the Hartnell era, and has completely missed out on all the character development he went on after that, because he became a much more genial character throughout Hartnell's run. So yeah, that's another thing that does work against it. I mean, I guess I can't really blame the episode for that particular thing. But that's an annoyance. But yeah, I can only put it in okay. So yeah, that's it. Now we move, because the episode ends with Peter Capaldi moving in, regenerating into Jodie Whittaker. So that means that next time I'll be looking at the Chris Chibnall era. I mean, it's not all bad, but yeah, not looking forward to it. But yeah, that was the Capaldi era. Again, a lot of people, say that this was really the start of the decline, but I think there's still, I can see, it is a mixed bag, but there's still a lot of great stuff in this era. And like I say, even when the episodes themselves aren't great, Peter Capaldi, he's still first class. So even even episodes like well, not Kill the Moon, because he's not really in that much, but in The Forest of the Night, he's Capaldi himself is still top notch. So that's the Capaldi era. So next time we'll be looking at Chris Chibnall, Jodie Whittaker era. Not looking forward to that one so much, but we'll get through it. Yeah, if you enjoyed this, please feel free to like and subscribe, all the YouTube stuff, and I will see you next time.